Hello, welcome back to my channel. And if you are following the needle tatting series where I'm just going through like the basics and techniques, you saw in the last video that we did something similar. Now, the key difference with this technique that I'm going to show you is that we are using true rings, only true rings, no chains, and we are working off of the needle thread only. So yeah, it's going to be real interesting. As you can see, I do not have the ball thread attached at all, and these two rings that I made here are actually two true rings. So I'm going to show you how to go about this because it is a little tricky to get used to. So let's get started. Since we are working off of the needle thread only, I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle here and split the yarn in the process. Sorry, I know my camera has been having difficulties focusing, so let's go ahead and get our thread ready to go. So as you know, with needle tatting, whenever you are making true rings, you work with the needle thread only. So we're going to have quite a bit of thread. So I'm literally just going to pull as much as I can without like it being unusable. Because yeah, if you have too much, it's going to tangle up on you. So we're going to cut it off of the ball, so it's no longer attached, and I just have my yarn here. So now, let me get this situated here. So now we have our needle thread only, and we are going to leave a tiny, tiny little tail, just long enough that when you're done with your project, you can weave this in and hide it. So we're just going to have our tail hanging out like this, going towards the eye of the needle. And all I'm doing here is making sure that my thread, my yarn, is not tangled in any way. And I'm going to keep a close eye on it because I do have quite a bit. So we're going to work the first ring just as a regular ring. And I am going to do 10 double stitches, picot, 10 double stitches, picot. And this picot doesn't have to be crazy big. It can be really, really tiny. Just make sure that you can work into it. So now we're going to complete our true ring. So all we got to do is simply pull our needle through to create our ring. And just go as slow as you need to go because we do have a lot of thread here. I try to just stop every once in a while, make sure it's not getting tangled, because it will want to tangle around our little tail that we have hanging out here. Okay, here we go, we're going. Let me pull this back out because it got tangled up in there. Okay. So as you can see here, there is our true ring complete. So now you want to make sure that your working thread, your needle thread, is coming out towards the left. So you see it's coming out towards the left. We got the tail hanging out towards the right. So now we're just going to position. We are not rotating our work or anything. So we are not reversing our work at all. And we're just going to go right into the outer ring or the second ring. And for this one, we are going to have to make it slightly larger than our center one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do 16 double stitches. 16. All right, so here is my 16 double stitches and our first half of our ring. So this is looking really funky, right? So now I'm going to try to kind of give you a visual of what is happening here. So as you can see, we have our needle thread looping around. Now you can't see the rest of the loop, but it is going around like this and coming back out here. So now what we need to do is we need to get this here. We need to get this here and connect it to our picot. So the key here is to pull our needle out of our live stitches here, but we're not going to pull it all the way through. We're just going to pull it and we're going to leave it hanging, and we're going to leave just enough to where we can work with. So now, as you can see, it's wanting to curl this way, but actually we want this to go around like this. So I hope you saw that, how it's like curling that way. I'm just going to rotate it to where it's going towards our picot. So now, to complete this, we are going to go through our picot. So make sure you go through your picot, pull it through, and this might get a little weird, but we are going to continue working our true ring. So you should have, now your tail is coming out through here. That is going to tighten up our ring. I hope you saw that. It's kind of hard to show. So this one is tightening up our ring, as you can see that. And then we're going to have our working yarn coming out from the top. So now we're simply going to continue on working our ring. And we're going to work, how many did I say? 16? 2, 16. Okay. So now we've got that. So now all we got to do is simply complete our true ring. Hopefully I did this right, because otherwise I'm going to have to do it all over again. Okay, so now everything should start going into place. So it looks a little funky right now. That's why I was saying this way is a little more confusing than using split chains. So let me zoom you in here. All right, so as you can see here, it is looking a little funky, but once we really start finishing this ring off, it's gonna look correct. So this is what I like to do. I just put my hand over the entire thing, start pulling, and as you can see, it starts pulling through all of our stitches. And this way, we don't have to worry so much about things getting tangled. So it's good to have a nice flat surface. So as you can see, we're already going back around. Just going to keep going. Continue closing up our ring. Now it will get a little bit tight because we do have to completely close this off, because it likes to get separated right in here. I don't know if you can see that. So I like to just give it an extra little tightening. And as you can see now, it is perfectly round. Look at that. And with almost any extra steps into it. I think whenever I did, let me see, do I still have the example? Yes. So I'm going to show you the difference just so you can kind of see what the split rings, or sorry, what the split chains look like versus the true ring. So here is the tutorial, the example that I did in the previous tutorial. And this one we used split chains. And I mean, it looks pretty similar, right? The center one. But this one just looks a little more round. This one looks more like oblong. So let's continue on. The thing is, with this method, you are going to need a lot of joins, so just keep that in mind. So once again, we're back around here. You don't reverse your work ever when you're doing this technique. So just make sure that your just make sure that your needle thread is coming out towards the left. So now we're just going to make the other outer ring. And we're just going to make this one bigger than the second one. So I'm going to make this 20. And then join, and then 20 double stitches. And like I said, you can make these as big or as small as you want. You can add extra elements. You can add picots to these. So there is 20. Once again, now we do not have a picot here, but we're still going to join at the center. So you can see where the first picot was. So we're just going to join right there. So another way of doing this is simply getting your thread here, getting your crochet hook, finding where you want to join, insert your crochet hook, and we're just going to pull this through without splitting, which I just split it. So insert my crochet hook right there, pretty close to where the original picot was. I'll pull that through, and I just created a loop here, just like that. So this way is a little more confusing to me because I can't visualize like where it's going to go. But so here we go. Like I said, this way is like really fiddly. So we have our loop here. It's a really big loop. We've got our needle coming through. We're just going to go from the back to the front, pull that through that loop, and we're going to tighten that back up. And just going to tighten it, tighten it, tighten it until it kind of locks all of our stuff in place. But as you can see now, it's just a little more looser than what I'd like it to be. But as long as we have this core thread hanging out here and we can still pull it tight, so let's test it. See how it's pulling it? We're good. This way it kind of locks it in a little better, but it'll kind of create a little gap right there. So you got to be like, you got to be mindful of what this last stitch looks like. So let's keep going. So now we're just going to continue working our second half of our true ring. And I am hoping and praying that I have enough to complete it because this uses a lot of yarn. So I'm going to do 20 double stitches. Okay, so there is our second half, and you should have your core thread coming out just a bit, your, main thread here. Sorry, brain fart. We're just going to pull this all the way through. And sometimes that can be a little tough. And now we're going to make sure that we get everything situated where we want it to. And I hope I didn't mess this up because I think I did. Oh my God. Seriously? Oh no. Oh no. I just knotted it. There we go. There we go. Oh, great. What? There we go. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I had a little faux pas here where my stitches flipped and created a knot. So I had to fix that. See, this method here, when you do the loop at the top, tends to do that. That's why I don't like to do it that way, but you can. But yeah, you just got to be careful because sometimes your stitches will flip in on themselves. See how it kind of created this little gap here because some of our stitches flipped and I do not like that. But I wanted to show you guys that you can do it that way if you want. Because if you do look up some shuttle tatting techniques on how to do this, that's the way it shows it. Because, I mean, with shuttle tatting, all you have is a hook and everything is like joined together. So I'm just going to fix these stitches. So yeah, that didn't work out quite the way I wanted it to. The first time I did this, it actually worked a lot better. But I think I had my stitches facing a different way the first time I did it. So, I mean, we just got to play around and sometimes mistakes do happen. As you see here, mistake happened. And now I have that little gap right there at the top. But, I mean, oh, it was so close to being perfect. So there it is, mistakes and all. Personally, I would probably undo all this and or just scrap it really and start over and go back to the method where you just weave it in. So I'm actually going to do that real quick and I'll come back to this third ring and show you what it's actually supposed to look like. Okay, so here we are back to working the third ring, and now we're just going to work it the way we did that second ring. So we're going to pass our needle through. We are not going to complete our ring. So we're just simply going to leave a little bit hanging out here. And now you see how it's wanting to curl the other way. I'm just going to manipulate this to fold back towards our center area. So I'm just going to show you again. So this is how it actually wants to go, but I'm just going to fold it and manipulate it back to where I want it to go. So now we have our core thread, which is the thread that is attached to the needle, and our, I'm going to call them the stitches thread. And so now we're going to pass our needle through our center point. So you can see it here. It's like a little line. That's where our original picot was. So I am just going to go through that area there. Basically, I'm going to create a picot. And I'm just going to go from back to front, pull through my core thread. And I'm just going to leave it hanging right there. So now I'm going to continue working my true ring by utilizing my stitches thread. And we're just going to try to make everything look as seamless as possible. And I'm going to work 20 double stitches. Okay, so this is the second half of our true ring. So now what we're going to do, we're simply going to pass our needle through and we're going to complete our true ring. So now at this point, it's looking real funky. So yeah, I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the first one. And I'm going to set it down. And I'm going to look at it and make sure everything's falling into place. And it looks like my needle thread's going to start going around. It's going to knot right there, and we don't want that. So I just kind of moved it out of the way. And now I'm going to hold everything down. I'm going to start pulling on my core thread here to tighten everything up. I wish I could show you guys a little better of what is going on. So let's just keep going. Move that out of the way. Pull that core thread until our ring starts to form. And we're just going to make sure that our stitches are sitting where we want them to, that our core thread is not bunching up like that. So the beauty of this is that we can go through and fix all these stitches. We can tighten up our core thread a little bit more. Go in here. Just going to tighten this. Put my palm over it and just tighten that up. See, I want this to be a little looser right here. There we go. And as you can see, we've created onion rings with true rings. So this is actually a true onion ring. And this one right here is actually a mock onion ring. Now with this one, I did do a true ring for the center just to make it look a little more rounder. If you do use a mock ring, it is going to look a little ovally, but it'll still give the similar effect. So this one I did do a mock ring for the center ring, but this was the first one I have ever worked, so it looks a little funky. So there you go. This is how you complete a true onion ring using true rings. I hope it was informative and you learned a little bit from my mistakes, and maybe you kind of figured out a different way to do it. If you did, let me know in the comments down below, because I would love to hear what you guys do differently, or maybe you figured out a different way of a technique or something. And also, I do have community posts where viewers like you can go in there and create posts of your own. You just got to go to my main channel, and I think it only shows up on desktop websites, so I'm not really sure, but you are welcome to go there and post your insights, your questions or whatnots, and I'll actually be able to see them a lot easier if you do go to the community posts and post your own viewer post. My goodness. But if you don't want to, I always try to be on top of looking at comments on videos. Sometimes it's hard because YouTube doesn't notify me, so I have to go through and individually look at every single one, but that's beside the point. That's YouTube's end. It has nothing to do with you guys. But anyways, I hope that this was informative and it taught you something. And yeah, happy tatting, happy crocheting, happy crafting. I will see you next time. Bye.